The story begins with what appears to be a tragic death announcement for the protagonist, Katu Manabu. To understand how this came about, the narrative shifts back to when Manabu is a recent graduate, standing outside an office building and shouting with excitement. He realizes he hated studying so much that it almost killed him, but he still managed to get a job at a large corporation. He believes that from now on, his life will be full of happiness and success. He couldn't have been more wrong. On his very first day, his boss suddenly shouts, "Zosu." At first, Katu thinks it is just an energetic greeting, but he quickly learns the truth. The company he joined is a ruthless black company. The word Zosu is used for everything: hello, thank you, and sorry. It is shouted in meetings, in hallways, even during scoldings. For the employees, Zosu is practically standard equipment, less a word, more a survival tool. The boss orders Katu to recite the company creed. Holding a book, he reads it aloud and commands everyone to repeat after him. All the employees shout together that they believe beyond the impossible lies possibility, and beyond giving up life lies success. It sounds completely insane. Suddenly, the old boss clenches his phone like a cotton ball and throws it at an employee, yelling at him. Then he grabs Katu by the head and screams that although Katu met his sales quota, it was too close. He shouts angrily and even threatens to harm him. This is Katu's daily life. He works non-stop, even on holidays. He is always exhausted. One day, while walking to work half asleep and distracted, tragedy strikes. A car goes out of control and hits him. Katu dies. After his death, he finds himself rolling around in a dark, black hole-like space. He realizes he never did a single thing he truly enjoyed in his life. He wonders why he studied so hard when it led to nothing but this meaningless death. He looks at his hands in confusion. If he is supposed to be dead, why does he still have a body? Why is he lying here? Suddenly, a bright flash fills the darkness. He shuts his eyes from the overwhelming light. When he opens them, a fairy-like woman stands before him. She introduces herself with a gentle smile. Her name is Iris, and she is a goddess. She tells Katu it is nice to meet him. Katu can only stare in shock. Calling herself a goddess sounds unbelievable, but he cannot doubt her. Her beauty is overwhelming. Iris explains that Katu was never meant to die. A glitch in destiny caused him to suffer endlessly and pass away without receiving the happiness he deserved. Bowing her head, she apologizes. According to Article 7 of the Heavenly Constitution, he has been granted the chance to live a second life in another world as compensation for this mistake. She gently takes his hand and explains that his new life will take place in a medieval fantasy world. He is allowed one wish: anything he desires. Katu listens, but not carefully. He is too distracted by how beautiful she is. She appears graceful and delicate, with long golden hair that flows beautifully, and a refined, almost otherworldly figure with gentle, balanced features. Her voice is calm and musical, like a hymn echoing in a quiet sanctuary, and even her presence carries a pleasant scent. His heart beats faster as a single thought fills his mind. He wants to marry her. That becomes his one and only wish, revealing how simple he truly is. Meanwhile, the goddess continues listing other possible wishes. She says he could gain mastery over all forms of magic, become immune to harm, receive an endless magic pouch, or command the strongest companion in history. Suddenly, Katu rises and inquires if she truly means anything. She smiles and confirms that yes, absolutely anything. Katu steps nearer, grasps her hand, and announces that in that scenario, he desires to wed her and have her accompany him. She initially smiles, acknowledging the petition, but as the implication sinks in, she panics, her eyes enlarging and her complexion turning crimson as a berry. She becomes agitated, yelling for him to pause, while Katu only discovers her response even more delightful. He gestures to his cheek and asks if she dislikes him, adding that they have only just encountered one another. She rushes toward him, objecting that it is not like that whatsoever, insisting she prefers someone earnest and genuine. Fidgeting anxiously, she confesses she already examined the type of individual he is, and that she does not dislike him in the smallest degree. For Katu, this is unfamiliar ground. He is 30 years old, has never been involved with anybody in his previous existence, and has never even had a partner. Still, if that purity leaves a favorable impression, maybe his former life was not entirely squandered. The goddess, still visibly unsettled, asks if he is genuinely certain, reminding him that he can wish for anything imaginable. Katu answers without pause, saying there is nothing he desires more than her. His fervor leaves her bewildered. She clutches her head, pondering what she should do, yet bound by the regulations she has no alternative but to respect his demand. Finally, she seizes his shoulders, collects her determination, and tells him that she will wed him. Katu's heart begins to pound rapidly, and his face flushes a deep crimson. The goddess tells him with calm certainty that a deity never retracts her word. Katu looks at her in bewilderment and asks if she is truly serious, unable to conceal the joy rising within him. He turns away for an instant, then shouts in pure excitement, "Yes!" Just as they are deeply engaged in discussion, a woman suddenly emerges, rising gracefully from a pool of liquid. She announces that from this instant onward, she will be the one directing things. Iris shouts, "Scold!" in shock as the lady emerges, water dripping down her form. Scold sighs, asking Iris if that was the explanation for her resigning to get married, calling her senpai. Katu is astonished, wondering if all goddesses are this gorgeous, because the new arrival is equally stunning, yet he chuckles, realizing that his future spouse is the finest too. Iris suddenly jumps forward and hugs her coworker tightly. She rubs Scold's shoulders and apologizes for leaving all the work to her. Scold calmly tells her it is fine. She sighs and says it must be nice for Iris not to hear that old woman's sarcastic comments anymore. Hearing this, Iris quickly hides behind Katu and apologizes again. Watching this, Katu starts to think that even the world of gods has complicated workplace problems. Scold lets out another sigh. She says it is really fine, but then adds that maybe she should try recruiting a reincarnated person too. She raises her hands and forms a magical circle between her palms. Then, she pushes it forward. A huge glowing circle appears around Katu and Iris, surrounding them completely. She bids them farewell, asking them to enjoy their journey, calling them newlyweds, and expressing hope that the hardships of medieval existence strengthen them. She raises her hand, wishing both of them fortune. Katu turns toward his new wife, asking if she is genuinely certain about this decision. Iris pulls him by his shoulder, reminding him that she already informed him, didn't she? A deity never retracts her statements. Feeling her touch, Katu grows embarrassed, his cheeks flushing crimson. Iris tells him that he should ensure he makes her. Katu cannot control his reaction to her charm, realizing she is so adorable, and clutching her hand he shouts that of course he will. He grins, recognizing that even if he lacks confidence, during moments like this, he must project confidence, and that is what his seniors advise. He additionally requests that Iris abandon formal speech, but she gazes at him with confusion, telling him that she intends to support her husband appropriately. Katu, after reflecting briefly, extends his hand, telling her that it is pleasant encountering her. She accepts his hand, grinning, telling him that the feeling is mutual. A huge magical circle suddenly appears in the sky and shines brightly. Instantly, Katu and Iris are transported to another world. When the light fades, they find themselves standing in the middle of a dense forest. Katu looks around and calmly says that they seem to have arrived in a different realm. Tall trees surround them, and there is no sign of people nearby. Iris lowers her head sadly. She apologizes to Katu, saying that he could have wished for a grand palace from the start. Now that she came with him, they have nothing at all. She feels guilty. Katu gently tells her not to say such things. The most important thing, he says, is that he has his adorable wife by his side. Iris blushes deeply. She thanks him, her heart warming from his kind words. He then looks up at the sky and says they need food, clothes, and a place to stay. He refuses to sleep outside. Trying to cheer up, Iris proudly says she can use her divine powers to teleport them to a nearby town. Katu turns to her and asks if she really can do that. She smiles confidently and says that all gods can. Relieved, Katu nods. However, Iris still feels useless. She thinks that if she cannot prove her worth, she might lose her place. She begins pulling plants from the ground, muttering that she cannot accept being inexperienced. She even apologizes for being strict with herself. Katu watches her, confused. He wonders if being a strict goddess is hard. After gathering some plants, Iris calls Katu over and tries to use her power, but nothing happens. She panics and pulls out a small manual, looking confused. Katu asks what is wrong. Almost crying, Iris explains that once a goddess leaves heaven, she loses access to the heavenly network. Without it, she cannot use many of her powers. Katu understands. He says it makes sense, since gods interfering too much could upset the world's balance. Iris quietly cries and apologizes again, calling herself useless. Katu tells her firmly that he did not bring her here because of her powers. Still, they cannot survive in the forest without doing something. He decides to act. Iris warns him it might be difficult. Katu grabs a tree trunk and says he will manage. He gives her a thumbs up and jokes that this is nothing compared to the time he was chased by an angry homeowner with a knife during a sales visit at his old company. Iris is shocked and asks what kind of sales job that was. Katu explains that the company was very aggressive, and even senior workers would visit people late at night like gangsters. He climbs a tall tree to look around, but suddenly loses his balance and falls. Iris screams and runs to him. Katu checks his leg and says it is just a sprained ankle. He can still walk if he supports it. Excited, Iris offers to heal him. Katu reminds her that she said she could not use her heavenly powers. She explains that although she cannot use heaven's energy, she is the goddess of healing, and healing is her natural ability. She uses her magic and the pain disappears. Katu jumps up in surprise. Iris apologizes again, saying she cannot fully restore her powers without heaven's energy. Katu proudly tells her she is amazing and the best there is. Iris blushes and says he praises her too much. He smiles, thinking she looks especially cute when she is embarrassed. They continue walking through the forest together. Katu wonders if monsters might appear. Iris says she cannot be sure. He tells her that if something happens, he will handle it, and she must run away. Iris refuses, but Katu insists. He married her to protect and cherish her. Hearing this makes Iris feel deeply loved. After some time, they find an old cottage hidden among the trees. It looks abandoned. Since they have no other choice, Katu says they will stay there for now. Iris hesitates, asking if that is really okay. Katu says if the owner returns, he will apologize. After all, he is very experienced at apologizing because of his old company. Iris does not fully understand, but she realizes he has a strange way of dealing with problems. And so, their married life in another world begins inside a small cottage in the forest. Both of them begin exploring their surroundings. Katu mentions that they have discovered a place to reside. He assumes they will consume the provisions stored in the dwelling and retire for the evening. But as he opens the containers, he realizes it would have been pleasant if that were the case. All the vessels are empty, and unfortunately, there is no food in the house. Iris turns toward him and informs him that there are several sets of clothes for both men and women. Clothing and shelter are managed for now. Katu tells her the next priority is a meal. They venture outside and examine the well. Iris notes that it appears to still function. Katu replies that in that case, they also have access to drinking water. The only remaining necessity is food. He guides Iris back into the forest, marking the trees along their path. She questions what he is doing. He explains it is a method to ensure they don't lose their way back. Iris is astonished. He seems remarkably resilient, even though he lived in a safe nation in his previous world. He asks if she truly thinks so. She replies that it feels more primitive, or perhaps he possesses a powerful survival intuition. Katu ponders her assessment. He pauses to reflect and explains that the training at his company was unbelievably harsh. They would leave the trainees deep in the mountains and order them to find their own way back to the training center, which was 20 kilometers away. Iris is shocked and freaks out, asking what kind of exercise that was. Katu wonders if it was merely a standard sales corporation. He recalls that they boasted nobody had perished yet, which made him feel like something was profoundly wrong. Scanning the area, he wonders if any edible items exist nearby. Iris gazes at him and mentions that with this much natural environment, there is probably something available somewhere. Examining a tree, Katu discovers something interesting. Iris is amazed and recognizes them as larica fruits, which are safe for consumption. Katu faces her and inquires if she is familiar with them. She smiles and tells him yes, she knows a little. She studied the world into which he had been reincarnated. It was not mandatory, but she simply thought it might assist the reincarnated individual even slightly. Katu is astonished and tells her she is genuinely compassionate. Iris feels embarrassed and insists she is not. She blushes deeply. He observes her, realizing it is not compulsory for a divine occupation, yet she researched it for people suddenly transported into another realm. He gently pats her head, recognizing that if this is not benevolence, what is? He feels fortunate, wondering if he married someone exceptional. Suddenly, he realizes he ended up caressing her head without thinking, but he doesn't need to worry about it since they are married. He continues stroking her hair while Iris flushes intensely. Abruptly, she retreats and shouts, "What was that for all of a sudden?" She feels flustered, thinking he should announce something before touching her. She realizes he finds her incredibly endearing. Katu folds his shirt and mentions that now it is time to collect the fruit and transport it home. Just as he prepares to leap onto the tree, Iris yells at him. He spins around. In an instant, he manages to evade the boar that was about to charge him. Panicking, he breathes heavily. The beast recovers its stance and prepares to assault them again. Katu asks Iris what it is. She informs him it is an enraged wild pig. Katu is puzzled, learning it is a creature from this realm. He positions himself to confront it and inquires whether they can consume it. Iris is momentarily stunned, but confirms that yes, they can, and it is supposed to be quite delicious. Katu begins salivating and tells Iris they should pursue it for a meal. Iris panics and shouts, "What?" She tells him he doesn't need to overexert himself. It is sufficient for her. But Katu is prepared to confront danger. He mentions that meat contains all the essential nutrients. As long as they consume everything, organs included, he observed in a video that they can prevent malnutrition. Besides, this creature is smaller than him, so this is actually their optimal opportunity. The boar prepares to charge them. Katu instructs Iris to remain behind. She gazes at him with confusion and asks if he feels no fear. Katu turns to her quizzically, pondering the concept of fear. He recalls his sales days back in his previous existence. There he stood, thrust into peril's path, soliciting investment from gangster bosses. Compared to that scenario, this is not terrifying whatsoever. The boar lunges toward Katu. He informs the beast that it will become their evening meal. Iris still worries for his safety, but he assures her it's fine. Yet as he attempts to evade the assault, the boar hurls him into the air. He crashes onto the earth. Iris cries out for him. He struggles to sit up with his quivering frame, admitting that wild animals possess incredible strength. It is no surprise they thrive in nature, and he holds deep admiration for them. Iris approaches closer and notices blood trickling from his head. She asks if he is genuinely okay and suggests they search for alternative nourishment. He insists he is truly fine. He rises, mentioning that it feels like one of his ribs might be fractured, or something similar, but probably just one, and he can manage. Iris yells at him, exclaiming that this is not acceptable at all. He observes her, thinking that it isn't as if he's going to perish, and even her worried expression is adorable. But still, since they will inhabit the wilderness for some time, if he surrenders over this injury, they are finished. He inhales deeply and shouts that they must believe that beyond impossibility lies possibility, and beyond capitulation lies achievement. This was the creed of his former corporation. But by hollering, he experiences sharp agony, and his ribs begin crackling. Iris screams at him, demanding what he even attempts to accomplish. He grins and tells her that everything depends on determination. He charges toward the creature, contemplating that guts matter in every situation, from sales to survival. Ultimately, they must push forward with courage. He slides across the ground, taunting the boar and challenging it to pursue him. The boar grows enraged and attempts to trample Katu. He smiles, recognizing that the creature is too gullible. In this world, if one loses their composure, they will be defeated. Just like that, he successfully diverts the boar, causing it to collide directly with a tree. He recalls that even if clients insult you or strike you, you must maintain calm and listen to them thoroughly to secure an agreement. Preserving a composed mindset is essential. He then retrieves his blade and offers a silent prayer, but abruptly collapses to the ground as the adrenaline dissipates. Iris sprints toward him, crying out. She places her palm on his chest and announces she will mend him. Within moments, Katu senses the discomfort subsiding. Iris tells him he genuinely overexerted himself. He assures her it's acceptable and inquires if he appeared impressive. She confirms that he did look impressive, and perhaps he was fine, but she despises witnessing him injured or in distress. She truly detests that. Katu gazes at her in bewilderment, understanding this is the first occasion he has heard such words. He cannot help falling silent. His parents always urged him to study relentlessly, not to be soft, claiming it was for his future. His supervisor was like, "Who cares if he perishes? Just deliver outcomes." That is roughly how it felt. Now he stares at the sky, comprehending that there exists someone who frets about him in that manner. This realization causes his eyes to leak tears. Iris is astonished to observe him like this, and asks if he is genuinely more injured. He continues weeping, recognizing she worries even more about him. Then suddenly he embraces her, declaring he adores her, and requesting her to marry him. Iris is perplexed and shouts that they are already married, though. On the other hand, in heaven, Skuld is relishing her meal. She wonders what her senior colleagues are doing. She employs her magic to open a viewing portal over their location, and observes Katu proposing to her superior once more. She questions why he is proposing again. Suddenly, someone snaps at her, demanding why she isn't assisting with tasks. The individual adds that just because it is lunch break doesn't permit her to idle, asking if she understands. Skuld scoffs, realizing that Devil has awakened. The person asks if she uttered something. She responds that she mentioned she will head there immediately, for the goddess leader, Freya, whom she respects immensely. She sighs, contemplating what an annoyance he is. Back in the forest, both of them return to their dwelling. Katu gazes at Iris and tells her he is grateful she can utilize magic. She informs him that there was a beginner spellbook on the shelf, which proved helpful. She has also established a protective barrier to ward off creatures during nighttime. Katu retrieves one of the volumes and wonders aloud if it indicates the previous owner of this house must have been a genuine scholar. He ponders whether this means anyone in this realm can practice sorcery. Opening the text, he is astonished to discover that even he can comprehend it. Iris explains that in their heaven, reincarnated individuals receive a benefit, allowing them to understand the primary language of wherever they have been transported. After preparing the meal, she arranges the table. Katu is amazed. Iris mentions that the seasoning is basic, created using preserved salt and extract from the lyrica fruit. He is stunned to witness such beautiful food. He tells her it is more than adequate, clasps his hands together, and exclaims that it looks incredibly appetizing. He begins chewing the food, making appreciative sounds. His eyes widen as he realizes how delicious it truly is. The fruit's tartness, the saltiness, and the fresh meat, with its fat, all meld together and saturate his palate. It is tougher than domesticated pork or beef, but that chewiness enhances the experience further. He is amazed and tells her she claimed it was simple, yet the grilling is flawless too. It is remarkable. He compliments her cooking ability and asks if she needed practical skills like that in heaven. Feeling bashful, she admits it isn't mandatory, but she believed being able to cook would make her more feminine and endearing. Katu is overwhelmed, realizing she is exceptionally adorable. His expression causes Iris to flush. He reflects that this is his first time consuming food prepared by a girl, and it is absolutely the finest. He continues eating enthusiastically and tells her that, as expected of his wife, she is so lovely and #1 globally. He asks her to marry him. She blushes and reminds him she already mentioned they were married. As night descends, Iris occupies herself bathing, while Katu contemplates the moon. He realizes he isn't completely stuffed, but his stomach is content enough, and now the moment approaches. He acknowledges that his wife is washing herself, and now the only remaining thing is to sleep. He peeks into the chamber, awaiting her, and recognizes that this house contains merely a single bed. Katu is astonished, questioning whether this is the moment they share a bed together. He panics internally because he lacks knowledge about proper conduct and how this arrangement will function. As far as anyone knows, he remains a virgin. During his student years, he solely focused on academics, and after reaching adulthood, he labored at an exploitative corporation with 0 vacation days. There is no possibility he gained experience, and he has never even had a romantic partner. So why was he able to approach Iris so fearlessly? It was merely impulse, a testament to how completely she resembled his ideal. He cracks his knuckles, contemplating his next move. He determines that the man should assume leadership in situations like this. Just as he becomes absorbed in thought, Iris emerges and announces she has finished bathing. He pivots toward her and addresses her as a goddess. She gazes at him with confusion and reminds him that yes, she is indeed a deity. She then requests permission to sit beside him. He stammers anxiously and grants her approval to proceed. Both of them settle together. He observes her, marveling at how anyone could possess such breathtaking beauty. He is stunned to realize that flawless skin genuinely exists. She is so beautiful that it almost makes him forget how to think straight. For a moment, it feels overwhelming. Yet that impression is misleading. His heart is racing, and he is intensely aware of her presence. When she softly says his name, he lets out a small, startled sound and quickly answers, "Yes." She asks what they should do next. Inside, he completely panics, wondering what she means by that. Katu gazes at Iris, recognizing that he is not some dense romantic comedy protagonist, which means his interpretation is accurate. They are married, and moreover, night has fallen. His pulse accelerates as they approach their first evening as newlyweds, yet he still lacks the knowledge or experience to guide their interaction. He recalls his initial day of employment when his supervisor ordered him to attempt his first cold sales visit to a company. He panicked because it was his first attempt. He had no understanding of proper technique and 0 self-assurance. But the boss slapped his face, shouting that he should cease complaining or he would beat the hell out of him. Katu was horrified. He had been struck on his very first day. He remembers his superior's words. Confidence is something acquired through accomplishments and outcomes, and there is no way anyone would possess confidence in something never attempted before. However, there is one thing anyone can maintain even during initial attempts. The boss asked if Katu knew what it was. He revealed that it is courage. Courage is something he can summon even when completely ignorant. In fact, knowing nothing makes it easier to summon. With courage, he can accomplish anything. Now, he should depart immediately, stay 1 more minute, and the boss would murder him. Just like that, Katu gathers resolve, realizing that with bravery he can face anything, but he still lacks understanding of how to initiate. He wonders if kissing marks the first step. Suddenly, he embraces Iris. Her eyes glisten as she observes him, noticing his trembling and realizing she remains nervous too. He holds her and suggests that perhaps they should pause for tonight. He scratches his head, acknowledging that he knows she doesn't dislike intimacy, but she probably still feels afraid, since they only met today after all. She appears confused and attempts to respond, but he assures her it is fine and they should wait until they understand each other better. She concedes he is correct and apologizes softly. Iris appears dejected. Katu observes her, realizing she must feel inadequate for not fulfilling his expectations, and that merely makes her even more endearing. He proposes they sleep together while holding one another. She grants permission, telling him that of course that arrangement works. She further questions whether that truly suffices. He tells her that simply resting beside someone as lovely as her makes him very happy. Lying next to him, she feels somewhat oversized and mentions that she is kind of plump. He assures her that is absolutely not the situation. Katu gently pulls her into a closer embrace, reminding himself that they are husband and wife, so holding her like this is natural. Iris's heartbeat quickens considerably. Katu tells Iris she feels very warm toward him. He continues complimenting her warmly. She responds that he is simply exaggerating everything. After that exchange, both of them drift into slumber. The next morning, as sunlight ascends, Katu discovers himself alone and realizes daytime has already arrived. Emerging outside, he finds Iris arranging garments on the line. She offers him a morning greeting. She pivots, gazing at him, while he mentions he rested remarkably well thanks to her presence. She expresses gratitude for his words and tells him she feels pleased. He observes her, recognizing she genuinely possesses that mature feminine composure. She slept soundly, rose early, and already tackled household chores. He scratches his head, thinking he cannot simply remain idle. Perhaps he will split some timber or something similar. But this is merely his imagination, because he was mistaken. Iris could not sleep whatsoever, which was completely natural given her circumstances. She and the other goddesses lack parents, having been born spontaneously from a sacred tree. Once they entered the academy to train as divine beings, they labored alongside fellow goddesses and as aides to the deities. Since he is a reincarnated human and Iris has lived only among goddesses, she has had almost no experience interacting closely with men. It was only natural that she would feel unsettled after sharing a bed with him for the first time. Her heart continues pounding intensely, making her question why Katu halted midway through the previous evening. She felt happy, yet part of her wondered what might have happened if the moment had continued. She assumed their relationship might naturally grow even closer after such a romantic moment. But perhaps his restraint is beneficial, because she might have lost composure completely, so maybe this outcome is preferable. And this internal conflict occurs precisely when he behaves too admirably. Just as she re-enters the area, she discovers her man acting effortlessly cool. He inquires whether the timber he chopped will be used for breakfast preparation, but before he completes his question, Iris startles and averts her gaze. He apologizes to her, mentioning he will clean off the perspiration and change clothing immediately. He observes her, wondering if she dislikes exposed skin, but his assumption is completely incorrect, because she was secretly observing him from behind. She panics internally, feeling completely overwhelmed because she has never seen him like that before. Reaching the cooking area, Iris examines the fireplace arrangement and asks Katu if she simply needs to employ magic to ignite it. He confirms that is likely the method. She gazes at it, feeling sentimental and recognizing these are cherished logs her spouse chopped for the first time. She snaps her fingers, and instantaneously, flames emerge. Katu watches her, realizing that witnessing magic again confirms its remarkable convenience. Iris beams softly and informs him this firewood represents their cultural treasure now. Katu is astonished, questioning whether this was simply ordinary timber from the storage shed. Afterward, she prepares grilled anglerfish liver accompanied by yesterday's leftover stir-fry. Katu praises his meal enthusiastically, complimenting his wife and mentioning the cuisine is extraordinary. Iris suddenly realizes that if Katu consumes food she prepared, then his physical form will be constructed from her cooking, which makes her feel that they are sharing something deeply personal and meaningful. This revelation makes her recognize she has fallen even more deeply for him than she previously understood. Just as she becomes lost in contemplation, Katu observes her confusion and notices her distraction. She covers her mouth and asks him what he just said. She gazes at him, wondering why he acts friendly so suddenly. Katu mentions he is curious whether he can learn to utilize magic as well. Iris gazes at him with confusion, questioning whether he truly intends to wield magic. Both of them step outside. He mentions it is certainly advantageous if someone can utilize it, but he wonders if he possesses that capability too. She snaps her fingers and tells him he doesn't need to compel himself to acquire this skill. He observes her and inquires if studying sorcery poses any danger. She waves her hand negatively, explaining it isn't life-threatening, but it causes significant discomfort. Her frame shudders as she elaborates that to employ magic, he must activate the mystical circuits within his body. She says she went through the same kind of training at the Divine Training Academy, and it was truly painful and exhausting. Katu wonders about the intensity of the suffering. She compares it to approximately the sensation of receiving dental treatment, like nerves throbbing painfully. He feels resolute, recognizing this remains preferable to his former boss's furious straight punch, so he declares it is acceptable and she should proceed. Iris appears puzzled, noting his decisive nature. She requests him to elevate his shirt and places her palm on his chest. She announces she will begin now. But before initiating the procedure, she becomes momentarily distracted, observing his physique. She struggles to maintain composure, informing him she will start. Her eyes glisten, and suddenly Katu senses energy coursing through his entire form. Just like that, an unfamiliar force assaults him, causing him to cry out in agony. He collapses to the ground. Iris examines him with alarm and panics, asking if he is all right. Katu remains determined despite his trembling frame. He offers a thumbs up, assuring her it was insignificant. However, he cannot rise. He shouts that it aches severely, it genuinely torments him, and continues to writhe on the earth. Iris feels bewildered. This same individual confronted an enraged boar, even with fractured ribs, yet now experiences such suffering. She understands this ordeal must be exceptionally harsh. She panics while watching him, and persistently encourages him, telling him he is remarkable. Katu keeps rolling on the ground, questioning what she means by that. Iris exclaims in surprise, and shouts about his magical capacity, explaining the process hurt tremendously, because his latent mystical potential is enormous. He is astonished, and asks if that situation applies. Then how much longer must he endure if he withstands this? She informs him that typically, one must tolerate it for approximately 4 hours. After completing the duration, Katu feels exhausted. His body is weakened, and he genuinely believed he might perish. Iris continues apologizing profusely, but Katu assures her it is unimportant because he voluntarily requested this procedure, so she need not express regret. He then examines his palm, acknowledging the agony persisted for approximately 6 hours, exceeding the typical duration, and it was brutal, yet this signifies he can now employ magic. He tells Iris excitedly that perhaps he can project fireballs or similar phenomena. She shares his enthusiasm, confirming that yes, he possesses that capability. His magical affinity seems aligned with flame elements, so he should be able to utilize it immediately. He glances at her quizzically, questioning how she can determine such details. She inspects his digits and explains he will easily distinguish these qualities once he gains familiarity. K2 observes her, understanding this resembles reading someone's character. Individuals who appear untrustworthy usually are indeed dubious. He encountered countless such types at his corporation. Yes, that workplace truly was dreadful. He prepares to strike the stone target. He opens the spell manual, which he could comprehend previously. He recognizes the initial phase involves concentrating mystical energy into his palm, and suddenly, he panics as excessive flames erupt from his hand. Iris is astonished, realizing this is remarkable for raw magical output. She suggests he should manifest extraordinary incantations. He asks if she is sincere. She declares he is undoubtedly a genius. Katu is stunned to discover his own brilliance. Throughout his existence, people acknowledged his competence, but nobody ever labeled him a prodigy. This realization brings him overwhelming joy. Perhaps he will become the supreme sorcerer in this realm. He celebrates, proclaiming himself the ultimate mage and believing his legacy begins now. But just as he prepares to strike the stone, something occurs, causing the surroundings to distort. Iris urgently calls out her husband's name.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I listened and